Hey, and welcome back to How to Do Whatever. Today I'm going to make a 3D painting of a cute dinosaur. I'm actually inspired by the movie Jurassic Park, where the cute dinosaurs are hatching in the very first movie. I'm first drawing the outlines, and I'm using some wood where I paint on, but of course you can use some piece of cardboard as well. I'm using a regular HB pencil. I'm starting off painting the egg and then just scribbling in the dinosaur. When I'm done with the outlining, I'm moisturizing the parts I'm going to build first. I'm just using water. If you are using cardboard, this step is not as important as if you would be using wood. The clay will stick better with a wet base, but with cardboard it will stick anyway, so don't worry about that too much. I'm then going in with some air drying clay. I'm beginning filling in the egg first. I'm trying to make the layer up to 1 centimeter thick in the thickest bit, smoothing it out with my fingers and fading it out through the sides, so it actually looks like the curve of an egg. If the clay is too dry, you can always add some water to make it more soft and squishable. To even the surface even more, I'm going to use a wooden stick, rolling it just like a rolling pin. To cut away the edges, I'm using a dull scalpel. You can actually use anything. It does not need to be sharp at all. A scraper, for example, or the other end of a spoon is just as good. The edges around the egg are smooth and faded. The edges of the broken eggshell harsh and sharp. When I'm done with that, I'm starting forming the dinosaur. I'm starting off with the leg, forming a noodle and putting it where its shin would be, then fade it out. I like using a wet brush because fading detailed parts is way easier like this. It's just like painting. I'm using a brush which is not too soft, so it's nice and firm, and also not too expensive, as I'm putting quite a lot of pressure on it and I don't want to ruin my expensive brushes. Having a wet brush makes the clay nice and soft, so you literally can brush it around. Just get sure that you create a step towards the eggshell, so it looks like the shell is poking out more than the dinosaur, as the dinosaur is inside of the shell. When creating the foot, I'm first filling in the gap that I left empty earlier to see where the foot is going. And then I'm smoothing it out. Then I'm forming little noodles with pokey ends to create the fingers of the dinosaur. I'm always beginning putting on the finger which is the furthest inwards. That way I'm creating the background first and working my way forward. As you can see, I was struggling putting the finger on place as I was using too much water and it was too slippery. To help it, I went back to my scalpel, creating something like a gap where I could press the finger in. I was then trying to form the finger around the edge of the egg, so it looks like the dinosaur is grabbing the egg. I then quickly outlined the arm and palm of his hand. When I was happy, I moved on to his hat. To create the hat, I actually used a tiny styrofoam ball, which was cut in half for the eyeball. I actually could have just simply made it from the clay, but I wanted to show you how to actually do it if you, for example, struggling making a round ball, or if you have a bigger object which you want to build and you don't have too much time for it to dry. I covered the eye with a flattened piece of the clay and then covered the entire head as well. As you can see, I cut away the edges and formed the head by doing so. So you only have to follow the outlines with your knife that you drew earlier. Again, be really careful that you can still see the edge of the egg compared to the dinosaur head. I kept filling in the head as the head is quite thick, creating also jawlines, chins and cheekbones. Using a scalpel, I could also draw in the clay what I wanted to build next, so I can get an imagination of what I'm building. So I already drew the way the hands are going on the cheek, and I drew where the eye is, so I can actually build the eyebrow. To form the hand, I'm using the same technique as before, so I'm just making noodles with a pokey end and putting them in place. Then I'm creating the hand and giving it some kind of a swing so it actually looks natural. As you can see, I sometimes just use the back of the brush so I have a dull, round object to push things around without hurting them too much. With a tweezer I'm going in, creating the scales. The tweezer actually has a triangle shape, which I thought is perfect for that, but you could actually use any object that is laying around that has a nice pattern. You can create tiny scales by just pressing gentle, but you could also just create bigger scales by pressing a little bit harder. I roughly colored the entire egg, and then I just went in with a paper towel, taking away some bits. That way a nice pattern on the shell appears. It actually looks like a real dinosaur egg now. I'm waiting for the dinosaur to dry and then covering its entire body. I'm using normal acrylic colors and I'm mixing the colors on the body itself. but of course a mixing plate works just as well. I'm starting with the brightest color as I feel it's easier to create shadows later, so I'm mixing a muddy light brown color. After covering the entire body, I have been going in, creating some shadows of some dark brown. I'm trying to keep the color dry, so I literally dry brushing the color on. For the deeper parts, as for example the mouth, I'm using black. I'm watering the black down quite much, so it's easy for the color to get in any gap. This way I can also fill in the scale I created earlier, so I'm just covering the entire body with the watered down black and then taking away the excess with a paper towel. Just get sure that the brown underneath was dry already. Then I'm filling the cracks of the eggshell. I'm using the same technique, so I'm just taking a watered down black, filling them in so it looks like the cracks are having some kind of a shadow. Then I'm painting the inside of the eggshell grey. I'm letting everything dry for a bit and then I'm going over it with some PVA glue. The PVA glue needs to be clear drying, and I'm actually just using it to create something that looks like slime. I'm putting a thick layer everywhere where I think that slime could be in an egg, and then let everything dry overnight. And that's it. If you want to see more of us, get sure to subscribe, hit the bell button for notifications, and stay safe and healthy. See you!